Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Democracy Theater, where we hang out at the intersection of comedy and politics in general. So today is Saturday, and that is usually the release date for the weekly podcast from Brilliant Idiots. And this Saturday was no exception. And I like saying and today, I was going through uh, the podcast, and and, and at the end, they were talking about pharmaceuticals and pharmaceutical pricing and about Donald Trump's executive order on that. By the way, an executive order that he also did in the first term and the courts turned down. So just so get that little historical context in there. But let's see what they have to say.
And the uncertainty that might work in business, that might work in real estate.
I was starting a little
with
too early.
contractors. It's not
in government.
good to have the government
Not
doing
world
that.
politics.
Yeah.
No, the world, we can't be this unstable. People depend on America to be stable. They depend on us to have stability. You know, well, I will say though, man, he's just better at marketing and messaging. Like even the other day when he did the executive order to lower prescription drug prices,
That was hilarious.
it was hilarious.
Fire.
You know why? Because he attached it with a story.
Love it.
So you tell this story about this fat friend who calls you and tells you that one of these
Amazing.
fat shot drugs costs less in Europe, and when the friend tells him that he's on the fat shot drugs, he's like, it's not working, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine who's a businessman, very, very, very top guy. Most of you would have heard of him. Highly neurotic, brilliant businessman, seriously overweight, and he takes the fat shot drug. And he called me up, and he said, President, he calls me, he used to call me Donald, now he calls me President, so that's nice respect. But he's a rough guy, smart guy, very successful, very rich. I wouldn't even know how we would know this, but because he's got comments. President, could I ask you a question? What? I'm in London, and I just paid for this damn fat drug I take. I said, it's not working. He said,
I mean, he is fun.
I just paid $88. And in New York, I pay $1,300. What the hell is going on? He said, so I checked. And it's the same box, made in the same plant, by the same company. It's the identical pill that I buy in New York.
Yeah, it's
and
not
here
a pill.
I'm paying $88 in London.
It's a shot.
In New York, I'm paying $1,300. Now, this is a great businessman, but he's not familiar with this crazy situation that we have. But he was stunned. But it was just one of those stories. And I brought it up with the drug companies, represented by somebody who's very, very smart, good person too. And we argued about it for about half hour. And then finally he just said, because they can't justify it, he just said, look, you got me. You got me. I can no longer they've been justifying this crap for years. They said, oh, it's research and development. Well, I said, well, research and development, other countries should pay research and development too. It's for their benefit. It was just one of those things. And the other countries would set a price and they'd meet the price and they'd say, if you don't meet the price, you can't sell it in our country. I said, well, then you walk away and, they'll call you back and they'll sell it in the country.
But the thing that was ill was I'm scratching my head because I'm like, wait a minute. He signed an executive order saying he lowered prescription drug prices, but Biden actually passed legislation to lower prescription drug prices.
But I think that I think it was actually a little different what he did. I think that Trump made parity across all drugs. And I think that Biden did it with certain ones.
Okay, so first of all, let's get this straight. Trump did this in his first term, and the courts threw it out, said he could not do it through executive order. Biden lowered, 5 or 10 drugs, but obviously he used legislation to do so. Also, Ozempic, I believe, if that's the one that he takes, first of all, it's not a pill, it's a shot. Second, it's not an American drug. It's a Danish drug company, if it's still Danish, called Novo Nordisk that invented it. But, that's a minor detail.
I don't know. I don't think the
I guess the
I don't
point-
think Trump's executive order did anything.
But the point that I would make is like, if you like what Biden did, just expand on it. And
Oh, and it should also be said that a couple of Democrats took Trump's executive order, wrote it in to legislation, and said, hey guys, this is the president's executive order. We would like to make that into law. I didn't see anybody run over and say, any Republican goes, me, I want to do it. I'm in. Not a person, not a Republican.
then say, hey, that was actually a really good thing. Let's go even further.
Especially being that actual legislation.
Don't do the
have
bullshit.
passed.
This
They already offered it.
is, I get so annoyed. Like, don't do the bullshit partisan shit. You could say, hey, I didn't like this about the Biden administration, but you know what? They fucking got this right.
Yes.
I'm glad that we have unanimous support. And you know what happens? Then you'll have no Democrat pushback, because the Dems will go, well, that was our thing. So if we push back against it, then we're pushing back against ourselves. So you have an opportunity for bipartisan support for something that Americans fucking deserve. The idea that like we develop the drugs, we pay for the development, and then all these countries around the world get it for pennies, and we pay this exorbitant fee. So we're essentially paying for them to get the same drugs that we get and we develop. That's bullshit, bro.
Okay, so we gotta set Andrew straight here. I really do appreciate Andrew, but Andrew is wrong on that one. First of all, in Europe, in every country in Europe and the European Union, I would assume collectively negotiate drug prices with the drug companies. States and insurance companies are not, or states, the government, the federal government, the biggest drug buyer in the world, is not allowed to do that. We cannot negotiate pricing on the drugs that we, the taxpayer, most likely paid for to get developed. Because I got news for you. It's not the pharmaceutical companies who develop the drugs, who does the base research to develop drugs. No, this is done at universities by professors, and then they come up with something that the pharmaceutical company believes that they can bring to market, and then they take it for free, and then they put it onto the market, and they pay the taxpayers nothing. As a matter of fact, they have made sure that we cannot negotiate for the price for pricing when we purchase from them.
Listen, I agree with you. Back it up a little bit, though, because you made a fantastic point. The problem is that once somebody gets in office, we don't realize that regardless of whether we like that person or not, we're all wearing the same jersey.
Facts.
Like when you're campaigning, yeah, wear the jersey you want and try to get your team to win.
Yep.
But once that person gets in office, that person, whether we like it or not, is the leader.
He's the coach.
America.
You still on the Knicks.
So that elected official should go in office and say, hey, they did some good things here, some good things there, some good things there. Don't worry about the midterms. Don't worry about the next election where you're just trying to demonize the other party so much that you just want them to be considered toxic. I hate when Dems do that to Republicans. I hate when Republicans do that to Democrats, because that's why nothing ever gets done. The only people that suffer when shit like that happens is we, the mother.
That's not why things do not get done. Things do not get done because every single aspect of our federal government has been captured by capital. That's why things do not get done. And I would venture to get that the vast majority of newly elected congressmen and senators come to Washington, D.C. to make a difference for their people and for the state. Yes, many of them have been corrupted by capital, but they certainly didn't start out thinking that they were going to go and work for capital instead of the people. But let's get back to the drug companies, because there's a couple of things here. So we have higher prices in America because the government is not allowed to negotiate for it. We have higher prices for drugs because our insurance companies are fragmented. So that means that each individual insurance company negotiates with each individual drug company, also making them smaller buyers, although they are buying on behalf of the American people. We do have advanced technologies, and we do have we have a lot of specialized care that drives up the cost, but this cost is only driven up because of the extra layers of bureaucracy coming from the private insurance company and for the massive amount of money that is part of the profit-driven healthcare system. That's why we pay so much for medicine here. You know what else? In Europe, in every other civilized country, they're not allowed to advertise medicine on TV, on the radio, in magazines. So they don't have the pharmaceutical companies, the European pharmaceutical companies, if there's any left, and the American pharmaceutical companies do not have that expense there. That's an expense they have in America. That's another reason why we pay so much for our drugs. And then there's, of course, the whole gaming of our patent system, right? For example, the asthma spray. Then they do a little cap on it. Then they get a new patent and an extension so that nobody can come in and do generic drugs and again lower the prices for consumers. Andrew is wrong. The reason that we pay exuberant amounts of money for medicine and for care in America is the for-profit motive and the total capture of all the organizations, the different agencies that are supposed to protect us have all been captured by big pharma. Andrew, I'm sorry, buddy. You're wrong on this one. Take care. Take care of each other.